Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jeffrey Gomez. Now for those of you who don't know me, which is like 99.9% of you guys, I'm an automotive writer and I've been doing this for a long time, since 1999 actually. I've written for all the major magazines, all the big websites. I've done it for a very long time, reviewing cars. Now in my private time, I love restoring old cars. I focus on old classic cars, and I weld, I paint, I build engines, I build transmissions, I do the body work, I do the wiring, I do all of it from the ground up, like this car behind me. Now, this car behind me is actually a 1966 Volkswagen Karmann Ghia that I converted from left-hand drive to right-hand drive. Why? Because I like a challenge. I have a 1967 VW Beetle that's also right-hand drive that I changed over, and I added a sunroof to that as well. So I wanted to find a car that was challenging for my metalworking, because I have an English wheel, I have a bead roller, I do all that stuff myself. I make my own panels as well. So this car I found in Oregon, and it was a disaster. So before we start jumping into this car with this episode, I want to go back and show you what I've done so far, because I've done a lot to it before I even thought I wanted to start a YouTube channel. So let's get caught up on where this car is in its current state. In episode 2, we'll jump into it right where we are now. So let's check out what I've done so far. So here's the car. I bought it sight unseen from the state of Oregon. I live down in LA, and it's sunny down here. Up there, it rains a lot. So this car suffered from a ton of rust. Look at that. The floor pans were eaten alive. It's like the Flintstones car. Why did I buy it? Well, I wanted to challenge myself and my metalworking skills and to practice my welding. And yeah, this car needs a lot of work. I wasn't expecting this much work, but you know what? I got it, and it was cheap because I'm poor, so it worked out in the end. And yeah, I need a lot of work. So the very first step to even tackling a project like this is removing the body from the floor pan, which I did. I made this cool little jig so I could wheel it in and out, and I started with the floor pan. So the first thing I had to do this Karmann Ghia was fix its nose, because it was all caved in, which most Karmann Ghias are. I don't know, for some reason people can't drive these cars. So let's look at it right now. So if you see, there's a ridge right here. It's flat right here because this is where the logo goes, the emblem. And then it's a ridge all the way down. Well, this whole nose was crushed in, so I had to push it out, and I had to reshape this metal right here. Obviously, there'll be body filler that'll help that out and some primer, but I got most of this out. So that was the first part. Now the second part is also on the nose, but it's right underneath it. So there's this huge panel that was non-existent on this car. You can see this is an oval shaped hole. It wasn't here. I had to reshape that. And you can see this black metal piece down there. It runs, I don't know, it's about 4 feet wide. I had to weld this in, and I had to reshape it because it didn't fit the shape of this panel. You can see it goes in right here, goes in right here, and it comes back down. So I had to reshape it because the one that they give you in the aftermarket is terrible. You can see it goes in and it comes in again. So I had to weld that in, and I had to reshape it. And that I did on my English wheel, which I wish I could show you how it works, but I'll show you in another episode on that. So that was the second thing I had to do. And the third thing I had to do to it was fix these bumper bracket holes. They were non-existent again, and that whole area really collects a lot of water. If you look at it, you can see this is where the hood sits, and water collects down here in the bottom. It rusts everything out. So I had to remake these holes right here, these bumper bracket holes. So this is where the bumper bolts onto, and it sticks out to the front of the car right here, and I had to create these all over again on both sides, and I had to weld those in. So that was the third thing. Now we got to move on to the fourth thing. The fourth thing is the headlight. If you look at the pictures, it's missing actually this whole headlight on the front fender. So I had to recreate this. I did this in metal. I bought an aftermarket bucket, but I recreated this in metal with the lip as well. Put it in my metal shrinker so it bended around. Created another piece right here, welded it together. And if you know, on a Karmann Ghia, you have this fender line, but then it disappears. It's real subtle. Let's look at this one that's untouched. You see it's kind of flat right here. So we had to mimic that as well, and I had to get a straight line to here and make sure it didn't go too far. So that was the fourth thing I had to do. Now the fifth thing I had to do, which was actually, I think I actually did it number one, to be honest, was convert the car to right-hand drive. Why? I don't know. I want a right-hand drive car. I'm here in LA. I like right-hand drive because they're fun and unique, and people always say something about them. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna make this one a right-hand drive as well because I want to practice my metalworking skills. If you notice right here, I have a 67 VW Beetle. It's really dirty. I gotta wash it. But this one is right-hand drive that I converted as well. Looks all like stock. And yes, I painted this car as well. I did this here in my garage, and I converted this dash too. So when I got this one, I had to convert this one as well. So I cut this part out from here. I moved it over there. That part was a challenge because this hump right here is a different shape for both sides, so I had to recreate it and add some pieces. This glove box section, you should actually buy it from a vendor in Australia, so I just welded that whole section in. But this was challenging to move it over and make sure it lines up and get the top right. So that was like the fifth thing I had to do, make sure it's all good with the original spot welds. That was the fifth thing. Sixth thing was these floor pans. I know these look terrible right now, but they're brand new. It's just, you know, there's like, I was washing the car and all that rust. Like on this door, that's not real rust. That's just from my water vinegar mix, which I'll tell you about next. But these floor pans are new. If you look at the old pictures, it looks like they're like a Flintstones car. So that really needed to be addressed. I forgot what number I'm on now, 6, 7, something like that. Anyways, the next thing I had to do was recreate this rear fender. If we look at this rear fender right here, you could tell this patch panel I welded in. So I put just a blank piece of metal in my English wheel. I shaped it to match the curvature of the fender here, and I put it in my bead roller to match this bend right here so it would work out, and then I welded it in. So that was another thing that I had to do. And there were some dents right here, so since I had this off, I could reach in and pull out the dents there. So that's the next thing I did. It came out pretty good. In addition to that, I had to do this part. This lower fender was all eaten up. I actually found an aftermarket one, but it fit terrible. Aftermarket parts are terrible, so whenever you can find original parts, use original parts. So I had to put this in my English wheel, reshape the whole darn thing, and then weld it in. And once I did that, I came over here to the back and I realized that this was all ruined too. So this was all recreated by myself, including this hole, and I had to do that next. So this Ghia has been through a lot. It's had a lot of surgery on it, and there's even more in here that I'll show you. Now here in the engine bay, this is the original side. You can see it has that little indentation right there, and these indentations. This side was missing the whole thing completely, so I made it in my bead roller. I made that, and I made this section. So that's one section right here. That's a whole another section right there. And I just put it in. And this piece, I made that as well because it was rusted out and gone. So I made that. I made this section right here. And I made those all in what is a bead roller. So you basically get a piece of metal and you put it through here. There are different dies that you can use, like step dies, flat dies, round dies. You have a rubber one. So I got this from Eastwood. Works really good. Has an automatic motor on it. And you can go forward, backwards, speed it up, slow it down. Definitely something you should invest in if you're going to be doing a lot of metal work, along with an English wheel. This is my English wheel. I got it from Harbor Freight. I have this rubber wheel for certain contours that you're going to make. Has a bunch of different dies that I got, I think from Northern Tool. They're actually located, you can't really see it. They're located right here on this side. So you have different dies with different sort of curvatures on it, and how you want to put the metal in there, tighten it up, and then you can get out all your dents, or you can make curves, compound curves with it. And that's what I did for, see how this curve is right here. I did it on that side of the car, and I made this contour right there. So as you can tell, this car has been through a lot of surgery to fix everything that's wrong with it. I got this car in Oregon, and it rains a lot there, and this car was really rusty. So I fixed all of the rust damaged parts, all of the rotten metal, and I replaced it all. So this car is ready now. It still looks pretty bad, but don't worry, we're gonna fix all that. That's all just surface rust. But the next step in the process, I'll show you in the next episode. Hope you guys like it. Please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what else you guys want to see in this restoration. I specifically started this restoration with this car because from this car, you guys can learn any other car. It all applies to every single car. This is like the stepping stone to learning about fixing cars and painting cars, working on engines and stuff like that. So hope you guys like it. The next episode will be painting this car.